in a special way when we come back.
John, today it's the steak episode.
I've been waiting all this time.
Steak of all kinds, but mostly T-bone.
Okay.
So where is it to begin with?
Well, in anatomy class, they may not have explained where the T-bone is, but the T-bone is named based on its shape. And the T-bone roughly corresponds to steaks taken in the lumbar region of an animal. Here in the human skeleton, it'd be roughly in this area here. This is known as the loin, or the abdominal region. You'll notice that the ribs are up here. It's called the thorax, but down here is where most of these steaks are going to be found.
I hear about porterhouse. I hear about fillet. It seems like there's a lot of pieces for a pretty small area.
Well, the number of vertebrae in animals is actually a little bit larger than our repertoire. There's actually extra segments. So, and of course the animals are quite large. So when steaks are cut through the loin region, they actually can add up to quite a number.
Hey, we're back in the kitchen with our special guest, Dr. Steve Miller. And what do you think of these beautiful porterhouses?
Oh, those are gorgeous. Look at how thick they are.
Yeah, cut these about 2.5 inches for what we're going to do today. And what can you tell us about these beautiful steaks?
Well, this particular anatomy is showing a small area of the gluteus maximus, which is that big hip muscle that lifts the leg backwards. And then right here we've got the spinous process.
Okay.
And I've got a little spine here to compare that to. So we're looking at this process right here. It correlates with this piece here.
Wow.
And then we've got the spinal canal, which is right here. And in front of it, we've got the vertebral body. Now here in the back, on each side of the process, we've got the paraspinal muscles. And then right in front of this transverse process is this gorgeous fillet. This is the psoas muscle. It's so succulent. It's the most tender part.
You can see how nice and tender that is.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
So this is a beautiful cut. Demonstrates all the anatomy very nicely.
Yeah, it gives us a nice feel for where it comes from on the cow, right? Because we're looking really at a nice slice, literally a slice right down the middle of the cow, aren't we?
That's exactly right. It's exactly perfect, and it's nice and balanced and symmetrical.
Well, it's time for us to do these beauties up. So you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Now, when I said to you earlier we might have more in common than you think, I'm going to start my recipe very much like you did, except my rub's just going to be some salt and pepper. I've got some really nice coarse Malden salt, and can I get you to rub that in for me? Thanks, Doc. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide around, and what you want for this recipe as well is you want some nice coarse pepper. You don't want pre-ground stuff, and you don't want to use a grinder unless you have a very coarse grinder. We've used a mortar and pestle, or you could use a hammer, you could use a rolling pin, anything you want to smash these peppercorns. But we want to get a nice rub, and I'm going to get you to rub those in as well.
I notice, Alan, it's already starting to bring moisture up in the meat as we put that salt on.
And that's exactly what we want, and that's what you're looking for in your rub too, isn't it?
It's exactly the same thing, because we want that good moist outer surface when we put it on.
Right. Now for this recipe, what you want to do is you want to do this all over the steaks. And so normally we just rub this. Now what we're really looking for here is for these to sit and get up to room temperature. And you can see what happens when they're rubbed and they get up to room temperature. That moisture just comes right out. You can see them glisten almost.
It's almost pooling in a couple of areas there. It looks real nice.
It sure is. Now, when your steaks are ready, and again, up to room temperature, and they're pretty thick, so you want them to get, nice and warm. And I'm going to let you in a secret. We want everything today to be nice and warm when we're cooking, because in order to outdo your tri-tip, your beautiful tri-tip, I'm going pyrotechnic later. So what we want to do now with these is we want to put them under the broiler and at a very, very high broiling heat, because we want the peppercorns to smoke and crack. That's going to take 3 or 4 minutes. So let's just slide these back here under our broiler. That is nice and hot. Well, for our recipe today, while our steak's broiling, what I'm going to do is, again, I'm a Slav, so we don't really like the sight of all those green vegetables on a plate. I'd like something starchy. So what I'm going to do, and with this steak recipe that we're doing, some nice scalloped potatoes. And what I've got is I've got actually some layers of potatoes that I've sliced thinly, and I've also got some carrots that I've sort of pre-cooked in some butter and some shallots. And all we do to finish this is we take some scalded milk. I've got some warm milk here, and you just want to basically fill up the gaps in these potatoes with this milk. Just like that. For a bowl like this, about a half a cup to 3/4 cup of milk. And then I got to make a nice brown topping on it. So I got some Swiss cheese that's been nicely grated. And this is going to be a perfect accompaniment to our steak. Now, I have to say that, you know, the old adage, meat and potatoes people, I have to say that's my preferred way to eat steak. You're not adverse to having
Oh, no, by the look of my size, I love meat and potatoes every Sunday.
Well, I can tell you this, you know, I betray my love of carbohydrates. And, you know, if I was an Elvis impersonator, it would have to be his later years after he discovered those carbohydrates. So I'm just going to pop these into an oven about 350 degrees.